All right, joining me once again here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show is my good friend Sarah Jaffe. Sarah is an independent journalist whose work has been seen in Truth Out, Jacobin, The Nation, Alternate, and many more, all of which and more you can find at her website, which is adifferentclass.com. You can also find her on Twitter at Sarah L. Jaffe. Sarah, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Hi, thanks for having me again.
All right, so Sarah, you recently wrote a really great piece up at Alternate about a high school in Seattle that refused to administer a high-stakes standardized test. It's a really interesting story, so why don't you tell us all about it?
Right, we've been sort of watching the two factions of the education debate facing off for years, and it seemed that this sort of corporate-backed education reform, in, air quotes, movement had the upper hand, right? This idea that the way to improve the schools is to give the kids more standardized tests, and the more tests, the more we'll know how good the teachers are, and then if the students are doing bad on the tests, then we fire the bad teachers, and then we give the other teachers merit pay if their kids score high on the tests, and then we close the schools if the kids in the whole school aren't doing well on the tests, and this whole thing has been steamrolling and has been really adopted by both parties. President Obama's Secretary of Education buys into this stuff. It's really been bipartisan, and the only people fighting it have been the teachers' unions. And the reform, again, air quotes, movement has been really effective at blaming the teachers for the problems with the schools. And so what we're seeing now is we're sort of seeing a new movement of, I think, more radicalized teachers' unions, right? We saw this with the Chicago teachers striking, where they were very effective at making the argument that they were not just striking over their wages and benefits. They were striking over the conditions in the schools, over not having air conditioning, over not having enough textbooks, over this over-reliance on testing. They really made all of this an issue and made their concern for students the issue. Now here in Seattle, this started at Garfield High School, which I believe is where Jimi Hendrix went to high school, among other things.
Ooh, nice.
Right. It's a high school that one of the teachers said he emphasized in an op-ed all of the things that you can't test on a standardized test that this school has an excellent record of. And they have the students already take 3 or 4 tests a year, depending on what year they are in high school. And this one particular test doesn't count for anything for the students, but it's still used to grade the teachers. So literally you have a test where the students have every incentive to just rush through the thing and not care how it comes out because it won't have any impact on them. But it will then in turn be used to grade how good their teachers are.
Where did the specific test come from, and who implemented the test and who set up this test that really does not actually have any say on what doesn't really talk about the students' performance?
Right. So this test, like most of these tests, is produced by a for-profit company.
Right.
And it is sold to the school district for about $4 million. And the superintendent of the Seattle schools who acquired this test for the district, when she did so, she was on the board of the company that makes the test. And this superintendent is now deceased. But an audit in 2011 found that called this an ethics violation, yet they still use the test. So, this test is sort of, it's called the MAP test. It's the, Measures of Academic Progress test. And it's not just used in Seattle, it's used in other places around the country. And the teachers are saying that this particular test is not geared to what they actually teach their students. It's not, it's not geared towards these specific students, but yet they're using this test to evaluate and to punish teachers. So these tests basically, these tests all over the country, it's the same story, right? They're all made by a company that is making money off of them.
And again, the test itself actually has nothing to do with the actual curriculum, but this magical test, which has nothing to do with the actual high school curriculum, is being used essentially as a way to bust teachers' unions for the most part, and to fire unionized, tenured teachers and
I
whatnot.
mean, this is what they want, right? This is what they want to be able to do everywhere, is to have, to decide on some random test that is going to tell you magically how good your teacher is. I mean, whatever. We've all had bad teachers. We've all had great teachers, right? I think everybody probably has that same sort of memory of their time in grade school, high school, whatever, right? Everybody remembers their favorite teacher, that wonderful teacher who changed your life, and maybe is responsible for what you majored in college or for what you went on to work on later. And everybody has that one teacher that they hated. That's a thing. And sometimes those are very different teachers for very different people. Also, I have teachers that I loved that my friends hated, and vice versa. These are they're hard things to judge, absolutely.
Yeah.
But somebody's scores on a standardized test that's made by a company that's outside of the state that has nothing to do with the curriculum that these teachers are teaching you is, by many obvious, measures, a lousy way to evaluate how good the teachers are.
So initially the teachers at Garfield refused to do this test and administer this test.
Right.
But it also spread.
Yeah.
What exactly happened after that? So the
superintendent of schools has actually opened up an inquiry into this test, right? They're actually looking at whether this test is actually useful. But at the same time, he's also threatened the teachers with suspension if they don't administer the test. So they are still refusing, and by February 22nd, so about 11 days from now, they say they'll be suspended if they don't administer the test. They're getting support however, from around the country. And like you were saying, I think other schools in the Seattle area, I think it's up to 4 schools now, have joined this. The teachers at 4 different schools have joined their boycott. And teachers' unions in other states are talking about doing it as well. And not necessarily the same test. It might be the same test, other tests. It's really just opening up a new level in the fight against this kind of test-driven education reform.